A very warm welcome to you, and thank you so much for joining our Homeopathy 24/7 podcast. We are going to be speaking to an array of international guests who will share their knowledge and experiences of homeopathy with you. We will discuss all types of subjects such as remedies, symptoms, and stories of health. No matter where you are with your homeopathic journey, we aim to inspire you on your quest to natural health and living. The podcast is brought to you by Greensmith, the founder of Homeopathy 24/7, which is a global platform connecting you with a homeopath wherever you are in the world, 24 hours a day. So let's get started with today's chat. Please welcome Mary Greensmith.
Hello, lovely to see you. Thank you very much for joining me. I'm going to run through a little bit more about life living on an island. I call this my homeopathic life, my life as it should be, as I always dreamed it would be. The first thing that I want to share with you, having been on an island now for 3 months, is that obviously everybody here enjoys the community, chooses to live here. But not everybody wants to live a natural life. Not everybody wants that natural environment. And all that, to me, homeopathy brings, with less is more. And so it's really interesting just getting to know people and starting to think what you want to do, how you want to live, and how that actually fits with the community. So I have been here now for 3 months, 12 weeks, and it's been winter. We're coming into spring. And obviously for me, I have got my mind set on just one thing, and that is getting my vegetable garden up and running and my vegetable beds in as quickly as I can. Now, I was really blessed in actually purchasing a property which had a fantastic greenhouse. So it has allowed me to obviously get lots of seeds in whilst we are building our vegetable beds. But it's not been easy because, of course, the first thing was the garden had been very, very overrun. Years ago, they'd planted box hedging, and the hedging had grown and grown and grown. And whereas I thought, well, okay, there's perhaps 5 or 6 box hedging needs to come out. I actually, in the end, well, what I did was put an advert in the marketplace, in the Alderney Facebook groups, buy and sell groups. Does anybody want any box hedging free of charge? You have to collect it. In fact, you have to dig it out as well. And so I had a lovely lady come around. She said, oh, yes, I'll take everything that you've got. I've got a big open space that really needs lots of shelter. And of course, you will find that very much living on a very small island is that if you've got a view, you've got wind. So if you haven't got a view, you've got the opportunity to have hedging and big hedging and get very sheltered. And that's actually what we chose, because to me it was so important to have a sheltered garden, because we love being outside, and we knew that if we were in a windy garden then we would struggle to be outside and eating outside as much as we would like to do. So we chose a property which had a very sheltered garden. It's got massive great 12-foot hedges, and then all of this box hedging was inside of that, just taking up the whole space. And the lady who wanted the box hedging had got a large area that was actually had no shelter at all. So she was going to be very, very grateful for anything that we could get out and pass on to her. So in actual fact, we had a mini digger, and luckily one of the farmers had a couple of mini diggers, and people who were experienced in moving trees, and they were loaded onto little small lorries. We've only got very small lorries here, trucks, to take them across the way to her place. And it actually took 2 or 3 weeks because the weather was so awful, and it made a complete mud pie of all of my grass and everything. The whole area was completely demolished. It was a real mess. But anyway, in the front of the house, I decided, well, actually, although that's north facing, it's very, very sheltered, and because it's a bungalow, there's actually a lot of sun. It gets sun for a lot of the day, obviously, once you're 8 foot away from the house. So we decided that that's where the main vegetable garden would be. So we got the mini digger just to roll up the grass effectively, roll it into a big pile, and I would use that as my main source starting compost. Now, of course, when you just first move to somewhere, you're really hoping that you can make some compost very quickly, especially when you live on an island where the cost of compost was astronomical. Of course, in the UK, we're used to going to a garden centre and buying a bag of compost. And if you go to B&Q or some of the big superstores, you can buy great big bags as big as you can carry for very little money. Now here you could buy a tiny little bag, and it was over £7. So for me to be using that much compost would be a huge investment. And so, of course, I'd already dug up a little bit and realized that actually the soil is really good here. And my husband then was persuading me to have raised beds, and I wasn't sure about this because of the cost of compost, because of the cost of getting soil. But the great news was that we have a green waste here. There's a certain part of the island. I'll take some photographs of it. It's down by the lighthouse, and that is where everybody takes their green waste, and it is piled up. They've got a huge, great chipper there, so they make huge banks of chippings and mulch for mulching, and huge banks of soil that is made into compost, and it's just left. Actually, it's not, they don't do anything with it, but of course you've got 10 years worth or more, so you can go along with a truck and get soil if you want that has been composted over a while. So that was okay. I thought we could do that. We could really make use of that resource, and it wasn't going to cost much money, just the cost of the wood for the raised beds. I realise now that my husband was actually just wanting to use his new tools to make the beds, because he has made some quite intricate designs. So I will share some photographs of that, so you can see how that's going to progress following the hedge line, and he's made the beds are not square or rectangular, but following the hedge, so it's really going to be quite fun when it's finished. So yes, everybody's got a reason why they want you to do things a certain way. But anyway, we've had such a lovely time preparing this and getting everything that we need to do it. Of course, at the same time, we needed desperately to be hedging. And as we're coming into spring, we needed to do that quickly before the birds started laying preparing their nests in the hedge. But unfortunately, our hedge cutter that we'd bought in the UK before we came on Marketplace wasn't working. We had to get that mended several times, get a few spare parts, which obviously takes a lot longer when you haven't got access to big shops. But eventually we got most of the sides done. We haven't done the tops of the hedging, and now we're going to leave it till the autumn because I really don't want to take the risk of upsetting any birds, hurting any birds. But the upside of that was that our neighbour who has goats down the lane was asking us for some of the hedging cuttings. So we were bagging that up for him and taking it up for his goats, so that didn't go down to the green run. So that was a really nice opportunity to do. And of course, I've got horses next door, so I've been picking their fields for horse poo. and popping that into the bottom of my raised beds to make kind of a hotbed, really. So we'll see how that develops. But the good news is that the first beds are all seeded up, and the plants are starting to come up, so it is working. It seems to be working fine at the moment. We managed to get 2 beds in, and then we ran out of wood. We had ordered the right amount of wood, but they'd only got half of it in stock. We have to wait till the ship to come in to deliver the second half. The order was wrong, so the wood didn't come. Then the ship didn't come in because of the weather. So we've had to wait a few weeks for that. It has now arrived. We're just finishing that last 4th bed, and we're just getting that underway. So that is still work in progress. I expect it'll be work in progress for quite a while. In the meantime, we hope that our planning application to have a shed should have gone through by now. We haven't heard anything, so we're waiting to hear for that. We don't know how we'll be told or when we'll be told whether that's come through okay, but hopefully that is imminent. We have started knocking down our kitchen. What we want to do is take out 2 of the walls of the kitchen, join in with the sitting area and the dining area, and make it all open plan. And we decided that we would take off the plasterboard and take the walls away what we could without taking any of the structure, and then it'll be ready for the builder to come in. And of course, when we're working with builders on an island, it is really waiting until they're ready. So obviously, to order the wood that we're having to make the structure, the beams, the uprights, we actually ordered that from the company that we worked with when we lived in Devon in the UK, and they are expecting it to be shipped over at the end of April. So we then booked a builder for the beginning of May. He's now saying that that might be a bit later. So we don't know how that's going to take. So, but we're ready for them. That's the main thing. So the house is ready for the builders to arrive, and the wood when that arrives. So we just put that to one side for the moment. We want to obviously finish making these raised beds, get all of the vegetables in that we can, and that's underway. So we're doing that at the moment. And really what's happened is I've been going off in the morning to help look after horses just locally. Paul's been taking the dog down to the beaches. They're checking out all of the beaches for the dog, because Lily is just so excited to be back in sandy beaches, which of course she had when we lived on a boat, and we'd take her in off the boat every morning into a beach where she could walk and do her, business. And she learned to paddle fishing. So she get very, very excited about the little fish. Obviously, we've got waves here. She's not so keen on the waves, but she is just so excited. For an 11-year-old dog, it's just lovely to see her bouncing around and getting so excited when she knows that she's going to the beach. So that in itself has been so worthwhile for us. It has been so beautiful to see. The reason we came off the boat was because Lily's health, because of one of her joints. And 2 years later now, you just wouldn't know it. She's just looking like a spring chicken. It's just absolutely wonderful to see. I had just the wonderful opportunity to join with a local talk going around and talking about the buildings and the time scale. Obviously, we have archaeological digs on the island showing the Romans here in certain parts of the island. Then in the 17th century, that's when the island really began to boom, when the locals really made a lot of money from privateering from whichever country the UK was in conflict with. They were allowed to be privateering and knocking out the ships of that country and taking anything that they could find. And that's when the island began really to build houses and build a system and create a whole community. So for me, that was very interesting, learning about the agriculture at that time, where people lived, why they lived there, and actually where we live is where the land is best, the most fertile land. And they're explaining that actually during the war, obviously, Alderney was an island that was taken over by the Germans, and the whole of the island was evacuated and just left to the Germans. And then the Germans brought in a couple of people to produce food on the island for the Germans. And there were between 3,000-4,000 Germans and prisoners of war on the island. And they built lots of fortifications. So here we've got Roman fortifications, we've got Victorian fortifications, and we have got World War II fortifications. So the island is so full of history. It's just amazing. And we will do some videos of that and show you actually what is involved with the history of Alderney, because it is so fascinating. But for me, at the moment, the priority is the fact that here, where we are based, is the most fertile land, which is really good news for me, because obviously I want to be growing all of my own food. And very nearby to us is Alderney Roots, which is a very small company. They've just been going 3-4 years, I think. And they have got polytunnels, and they're growing fresh fruit and vegetables for the islanders. And again, it's in the right area. It's really good. So I'm really enjoying their company, learning about what they're doing and why they're doing it. He's a chef, so obviously he gets on with Paul, my husband, who does all of the cooking in our house, because if that was left to me, we wouldn't be eating an awful lot. So we really are enjoying the company of people who are wanting to make a difference and wanting to be self-sufficient on the island as much as possible. And I know that we're going to really find some great spirits and great people who have the same mindset. Somebody was saying to me how lucky I was that my husband actually was in the same thought process of me, coming to live on an island. And I had to think about that for a moment, whether what it was that actually drove him to come and want to live this sort of life. And a few things came to mind actually that I hadn't really considered before. First of all, the main thing that he really got excited was the possibility of living in a wooden house and not a stone house. In the UK, most of the houses are made of stone. And he hates working on houses, absolutely hates working on stone houses, loves working on boats. And of course, the possibility of him living in a wooden house meant that it was just a boat. It just happened to not move very far. So he is very, very happy to be working on a wooden house. So that really made him excited to want to be here. Like me, he's very independent, and he likes to be in charge of his own decisions and not have decisions made for him. And I think the idea of coming to a small community means that you are a lot more involved with the decisions that happen. Now, in reality, of course, I don't know whether that's going to be true. There might be the possibility to be going to community meetings and things like that, but they have their own government, and everybody you talk to is very, very opinionated about what's right and what's wrong about that. So I'm looking forward to getting to know more about that and seeing how we can become involved. But how much do we actually want to be involved? Because I think for us coming to the island, our whole thing is we are self-sufficient. We make our own choices, and we are allowed to do that because of where we live and how we want to live. But what we are really, really enjoying is, like as we found living on a boat, we are outside a lot more. We are able to walk a lot more. We're able to go and get that sea breeze. We're able to wander just about anywhere on the island. It's most incredible. And because of the history of the bunkers and the castles and the fortifications, you've got so much to go and explore. So I'm going to include some photographs of some of the views that you've got from the fortifications. You can see why they are fortifications. There is just so much to do in such a small space. It's quite incredible. I'm also going to pop on there a photograph of the blonde hedgehog in Alderney. It is the only place in the world where our hedgehogs are albino. So we have seen our first blonde hedgehog. We're very, very excited about that. Very small compared to our hedgehogs in the UK, but of course I've only seen one, so I don't know whether that's normal or whether it was just a youngster. But just learning about the countryside and the animals that are here. We're excited about getting ready for having chickens because we haven't got foxes here and we haven't got badgers. So apart from other people's dogs, the chickens are going to be fairly safe, which is very very different from where we were in the UK. So that's all exciting stuff that I'm looking forward to sharing with you. So if you are listening to this on our podcast, please note that we do it on YouTube, where we have got pictures and video as well. Now, of course, it wouldn't be right and proper to talk about living on an island without talking about the weather, because obviously everything is reliant on the weather. And what's so amazing about living on a small island is the weather changes so quickly. So 1 minute, beautiful, beautiful blue skies. The next minute can be huge winds or rain. And it really is quite incredible to see those changes. But you just feel so much fresher because, of course, we've got 70 miles from here to the UK. We've only got 10 miles from here to France. But we really are right out in the sticks. We really are a small island, a low island, and we do get the weather and we do get the waves. Now, if you haven't heard about the Alderney race, the Alderney race is our tide. We have the most huge tide here because of the pull between England and France. And what we find is that the tide might be going up to 6 miles an hour when it's pulling. So you really have to know how to sail. You really have to know how to use a boat to be in these seas. These are not easy seas to navigate. And you can understand that in history, why there would have been a lot of ships getting shipwrecked around here. So we will be exploring, obviously, all of that at a later date. We can get boat trips out to little islands around uninhabited islands that are full of puffins and fantastic wildlife. So I'm looking forward to showing you some of that from Alderney. So I hope this is just a great introduction to a different way of living, a fantastic opportunity that we have got in this day and age, which means that I can work from anywhere I like, and just the opportunity to live in a completely different area and have a different life for me. I hope you've enjoyed this. I look forward to seeing you next week. Take care. I hope you enjoyed a little insight into living on an island. Next week, I'm going to be joined by Hector, and Hector will be talking to us about using homeopathy with our dogs and learning how to help our dogs just be more healthy, maintain better health, and the things that you can be doing yourself to help them. I look forward to seeing you then. Take care. I do hope you've enjoyed these episodes, and I do hope you can subscribe to our channels. Now, there are various ways for you to listen to our podcast or watch it on video on YouTube. So whether it's iTunes, Spotify, or YouTube, please do subscribe and please do leave us a review. If you leave us a review on these platforms, then more people will see our podcast. We just want more people to share the joy of homeopathy. It's a choice that everybody should know about. Please do everything you can to help us help more people.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode and look forward to listening to our next one. Please don't forget to follow our podcast on your chosen channel, and please do leave us a review so we can continue to share homeopathy with as many people as possible. If you do have any questions, please do reach out to us on any of our social platforms mentioned in the show notes. We at Homeopathy 24/7 hope to empower you on your natural health journey.